also don't think that that's going to heal anything remotely like the central problem.
Sure,
and I think that what tends to happen in terms of government is people love arguing about the problems that can be solved by opening a wallet, and nobody likes to solve a problem by, closing their sex life to one person, for example.
What a save.
And when it comes to his own rhetoric, you can argue that it's grading on a curve because Trump was coming in with such wild rhetoric.
This is one of the areas where we get into this. I don't understand if there's like brain breaking happening or what's going on. I don't know what world we can ever live in.
It is brain breaking because, like,
to say that Biden has failed at bipartisanship when, we've gotten the CHIPS Act.
It's funny how he mentioned the CHIPS Act, and whenever we look up what happened with the CHIPS Act, like it passed, and it's okay, so shouldn't we have like new fabs and stuff being built? I love me some Chat GPT. Every single part in that fab needs to be a clean room because it's very complex. Like, those are like the most complicated things on the planet right now.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with any of that, but I'm just saying that, again, I know you're upset when I bring up the term merry-go-round. I think that there are good conversations to be had about people getting married because stable families produce stable children that are less likely to commit crime, that are more likely to go to school, that are more likely to be productive members of society, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to disagree with you on any of that. All of that is true. It's just frustrating that sometimes when you bring up any problem, all of it will circle back to other things that makes it seem like we can't make any progress in any area without fixing something.
Well, I literally just told you that on the local level, I'm fine for people voting for air
conditioning. Yeah, but so for instance, on the
and
local level, so for school funding is done, I think, generally per district. So what do you do when you have poor districts that can't afford air conditioning for their schools?
I mean, the idea there would be that presumably if the society, meaning the state, and I generally don't mean the federal state, I mean like the state of California, for example, decides that everybody ought to have air conditioning, people will vote for air conditioning, and that's perfectly legal. And I don't think there's anything morally objectionable about that per se.
Cool.
I also don't think that that's going to heal anything remotely like the central problem.
Sure,
and I think that what tends to happen in terms of government is people love arguing about the problems that can be solved by opening a wallet, and nobody likes to solve a problem by, closing their sex life to one person, for example.
What a save. What a save. Good job, Ben.
Or having kids within a stable,
I knew exactly where he was going with
the things that actually build society. I'm fine with arguing about each of these policies, and whether we apply them or not is a matter generally of pragmatism.
As we descend from the heavens of philosophical discussion of conservatism and liberalism, let's go to the pragmatic muck of politics. Trump versus Biden. Between the two of them, who was in their first term the better president? And thus, who should win if the two of them are, in fact, our choices, should win a second term in 2024? Ben?
Sure.
Remember, this video was back in January 23rd, 2024. A full year, almost a full year ago. That's when this debate came out.
So, in terms of actual job performance, you have to separate it into a few categories. In terms of actual performance in foreign policy, I think Trump's foreign policy record is significantly better than Biden's, the world being on fire right now being a fairly good example of that. And we can get into each aspect of the world being on fire and where the incentive structures came from and how all of that happened in a moment. When it comes to the economy, I think that Trump's economic record was better than Biden's. Doesn't mean he didn't overspend. He did. He wildly overspent. But he also had a very solid record of job creation. A huge percentage of the gains in the economy went to people on the lower end of the economic spectrum. Actually, the gross income to the average American was about $6,000 during his term. The unemployment rates were very, very low before COVID. I think that you almost have to separate the Trump administration into sort of before COVID and during COVID, because COVID obviously is sort of a black swan event, the most signal change in politics in our lifetime. And so, governance during COVID is almost its own category, which we can discuss. But, in terms of foreign policy, in terms of domestic policy, I think that Trump was significantly better.
Blew this one away.
And that's on the upside for Trump. On the downside for Biden, obviously you're talking 40-year highs in inflation. You're talking about savings being eaten away. You're talking about everything being 20 to 30% more expensive. You're talking about massive increases to the deficit, even at a rate that was unknown under Trump. The deficit under Trump raised by about a little under $1 trillion every year up until 2020. Again, 2020 was COVID year, so everybody decided that we're going to fire hose money at things. But then Joe Biden continued to fire hose money at things in 21, 22, and 23.
Yeah.
That obviously is, in my opinion, bad economic policy. And then you get to the rhetoric, and you get to the stuff that Donald Trump says. And as I've said before, my view is that on Donald Trump's epitaph, on his gravestone, it will say Donald Trump. He said a lot of shit. I think that Donald Trump does say a lot of things. I think that is basically baked into the cake, which is why everyone who's bewildered by the polls is ignoring human nature, which is at the beginning, when you see something very shocking, it's very shocking. And then if you see it over and over and over and over for years on end, it is no longer shocking. It is just part of the background noise, like tinnitus. It just becomes, something that your brain adjusts for. And so do I like a lot of Donald Trump's rhetoric? No, and I never have. Do I think that that is dispositive as to his presidency? No, I do not. When it comes to Biden, again, I think he's underperforming economically. I think that his foreign policy has
This is why I like Ben, man. This is why I like Ben. He does a really good job at explaining this perfectly rationally and why people treat Trump in a differently than other people, than other presidencies, because Trump is completely different than other presidents. And I guess Destiny just hates the fact that that's true or something, maybe.
Been really a problem. Even the things I think he's done right are, I think, band-aids for things that he created by doing wrong. And when it comes to his own rhetoric, you can argue that it's grading on a curve because Trump was coming in with such wild rhetoric that just a maintenance of that wild rhetoric doesn't really change, again, the baseline. For Biden, he came in the same way that Obama did, on the sort of soaring rhetoric of American unity. I'm the president for all. Like Trump came in, he's like, listen, I'm the president for what I am, and I'm going to say the things I want to say. I'm going to be on the toilet and I'm tweeting. We're like, okay, so that's what it is. With Biden, he came in with, I'm the president for all Americans. I'm trying to unify everybody, and that
is
pretty
so
quickly
true.
broke down into a lot of oppositional language about his political opponents in particular, an attempt to lump in.
Like everyone knew what we were getting when you voted in Trump. Like Trump didn't try to like pretend that he's like this bastion of truth or whatever. Like. Like he never did that. Like everyone knew what that you were getting when you vote for Trump. Like no one was like Trump didn't change the way that he acted before he got elected to after he got elected. Like there was no I mean I guess you understand the point I'm making.
Huge swaths of the conservative movement with the people who participated, for example, in January 6th or who were fans of January 6th. The sort of lumping in of everybody into MAGA Republicans who wasn't personally signed on to an infrastructure bill with him. That sort of stuff, I think, has been truly terrible. I thought his Philadelphia speech was truly terrible. And again, I think that you do have the problem of he is no longer capable of, certainly rhetorically, unifying the country. When
Look at that. Criticism of Trump.
Doug, you ever know you're Ben Shapiro? To the tune of Wind Beneath My Wings. Okay, terrible joke. Where's Neri? Did.
I don't get the joke. I'm sorry.
every speech from him feels like watching Nick Wallenda walk across a volcano on a tightrope. It really is like you're just sort of waiting for him to fall. I mean, it's sad to say. I mean, the other day,
I actually want to know
what was in effect his campaign
I feel
kickoff.
so.
And this is in Valley
Where's
Forge.
Neri?
And
it was terrible.
I mean, Jill rushed up there, like off the.
I mean, but I don't know how it's terrible. I want to know why that joke was terrible. Give it to me. Give me the info.
To come and try and guide him away so he didn't become the Shane Gillis Roomba. And that's not really, let's put it this way: it does not quiet the soul to watch Joe Biden rhetorically. Again, it's a different problem than Trump's problem, but that's my analysis.
This is one of the areas where we get into this. I don't understand if there's like brain breaking happening or what's going on. I don't know what world we can ever live in.
It is brain breaking because like your Destiny's worldview is just completely different than anyone else's.
The song "Wind Beneath My Wings."
Oh, okay. All right. I understand
Trump
now.
is less divisive for the country than Biden. I think it is so patently obvious. Trump is so divisive. Like, not only does Trump make an enemy out of every person in the opposition party, he makes an enemy out of his own party and every single person around him. Like, we all watched him bully, Jeff Sessions. We all watched him bully his own party on Twitter. We all watched, like, all of these people walk away from him. Even recently, I think... the Secretary of Defense Esper and John Kelly, the Chief of Staff, were saying I think Trump is a threat to democracy.
A little bit, but it's fine.
You've got all of his prior people that were around him, some of his closest allies. You've got Bill Barr that won't co-sign a single thing that he says. You've got all these people that he used to work with that all say Trump is a horrible, evil person. He is ineffective as a leader. He doesn't accomplish anything, and he didn't. To say that Biden has failed at bipartisanship when we've gotten the CHIPS Act, we've gotten the IRA, we've gotten the ARP, we've gotten the bipartisan infrastructure bill.
It's funny how he mentioned the CHIPS Act and the. Whenever we look up what happened with the CHIPS Act, like it passed, and so shouldn't we have like new fabs and stuff being built? Nothing's being built right now. Nothing's being built. Like people took some money and they're proposing some plans, and it's been 2 to 3, almost 3 years, and what has happened? Nothing. Just talks. Still just talks. And I'm like, bro. Come on now.
All this major legislation that is working in this historically divided Congress, as opposed to Trump that got us tax cuts and deficit spending.
I might be outdated on that a little bit. Maybe there has been something that's been built. I do vaguely remember something about Intel making something here, or something's being built by Intel. I do vaguely remember that. Should we look into that? Okay, let's look into that. We're gonna chat GBT this. Because I love me some chat GPT. Let's throw myself here. Job creation. Boost innovation research. But what's being built? Like we know that people took some of the money, but like what's being built from that money? Like just them taking in the money isn't creating anything. That's just them taking the money that the government like provided for that specific cause. I mean, you can assume that something is being built. Example, Intel. Okay, Intel broke ground. Okay, so they started. Okay, so all right, they broke ground. That's something. In Ohio, manufacturing growth. Okay, this is a positive thing, but I just want to know, like, it's been like 3 years. It's been almost 3 years, and we've broken ground. But like, does it really take that long to build a fab? I mean, fabs are very complicated. They are. They're much more complicated than building a Tesla gigafactory. I could say, I can almost confidently say that. Because you're making microchips, and it needs to be like every single part in that fab needs to be a clean room, because any little tiny dust particles of anything could ruin the samples because of how tiny transistors are when making things like that. And wafers are being like moved all across the entire facility at all times. It's very complicated. And they have like a whole robotic system. It's very complex. Like, those are like the most complicated things on the planet right now. Like, that's why graphics card and CPUs and things are so expensive. Like, the new 5090 is supposed to be like, what, $2,000 or something? It's a graphics card or GPU, the thing that you put in your computer. Something's happening. They broke ground, but is that all you guys got for 3 years? Just breaking ground? You like the further details on specific projects? Are NVIDIA GPUs made in the US? Question mark. Unlike NVIDIA does not manufacture any of its own chips. Most of the high-end chips are done by TSMC. It's Taiwan's based facilities. Yeah, it's not like most of the like GPUs, the 5090, that's all being made in like Taiwan. Like, the CHIPS Act is specifically a US thing. Like, the 5090 was going to come out regardless if the CHIPS Act was put in place or not. Investment. I mean, yes, I don't care about investment. Investment to TMC, funding to expand facilities in Arizona. Oh, expand facilities in Arizona. Oh, okay, that's something. Plans and more plans to establish, like, that's not practical. That's just plans, more plans, details, investments of development, more plans. The Ohio thing is probably the best thing that's going on. Like, breaking ground is way more way more feasible in my mind than just making plans. The TMC expanding facilities in Arizona, that's actually pretty good. I think that's pretty good. Like, I like the CHIPS Act. It's good that we're making our own chips here, which will decrease the prices of, well, in theory, should decrease the prices of all these things. And I would like to work in a safe room or stuff like that, in one of those facilities. That would be really cool.
I don't understand where we ever are in this world where Biden is somehow more divisive than Trump.